Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bucs Bounty, a special live show today as we get the trade deadline ready. We got about 30 minutes left to go before that trade deadline comes in. Pirates have already made some moves. Joining me today, of course, Kevin Young. KY, thanks for coming on. You're in Milwaukee right now, so the vibes are a little bit different with the team. So far, we've seen Doval join the team. We've seen Weaver obviously get traded for. We'll get into that in a minute. But you've been around the team these last few days here in Milwaukee, and as the team gets ready for this after the tough series in Cincinnati, kind of what's the vibe going on there going into the deadline?
Well, there's a mixed vibe. Obviously, the team not playing as well as you like. Obviously, losing the last 7 out of 10 is always a tough one. And then the blow of Ryan O'Hearn, obviously, that was a big one. And so it's been a mix. But obviously, the acquisitions, the trades, the assertiveness of Ben Cherington and the staff to want to add on to try to make it better for this bullpen and make that run, if you will, in August to jump back into that wild card race and not leave it really. And I think that's the positive part. I think the team is rallied behind what is trying to be done under the unique circumstances with losing one of their big, heart and soul type of guys and the run producers in that lineup. And so I think all in all, it's a really good position to be in, to be able to know that you're still fighting for something, and really does well going into obviously here now in Milwaukee for this 4-game series.
I agree. It's got to be a weird place. I mean, we've been in clubhouses during the trade deadline, some where you know what the team is going to do, some where you're not really sure what the team is going to do. But look, let's just start with the obvious here. Pirates making a huge splash today, doing exactly what I hoped they would do, to be honest with you. He was what I called my major trade that I wanted the Pirates to make on a pregame show, actually, just recently. Signing Luke Weaver from the New York Mets, trading only one player in Sammy Staffer, the Pirates' number 9 prospect. He is now the number 10 prospect for the Mets. But hey, Luke Weaver is an incredible pitcher in the bullpen. The last 3 years, he's been unbelievable. I played against him when he was at the Cardinals, when he was a starter. He was not the same kind of pitcher that he is now. KY, I think that we just got to start here because we've seen 2 additions to the Pirates bullpen, which everybody knew was the big glaring hole that needed to be fixed. But what do you see specifically from Luke Weaver? What do you think he brings to this Pirates bullpen?
Well, you mentioned it. I think one is experience. I think obviously something that he definitely brings, and more importantly, the ability to get left-handers and right-handers out of that bullpen is always a big key. And obviously, one thing for him, right-handers only hit they ain't even hit 100. They were at 099
I
against him this
know.
season. He's just flat dominating. That changeup has been really, really good, and it plays really good against the lefties as well. And so, and you see the unique delivery as well. He controls the running game with that too. So all the little things that you would think that you really want to have out of a guy coming out of your bullpen, the ability to throw strikes, limit some walks, get some swing and miss, and weak contact. That's exactly what you really want to have. And so often you see guys, you see those flames in the background. You're so used to seeing
That's
those
cool.
flamethrowers come out of the bullpen, but it's not. He's not that guy. He knows exactly who he is, and he goes out and attacks with his stuff. Mix, like you said, add and subtract. He does that extremely well. So you have a guy that has some experience. He can throw strikes. He can get some swing and miss and weak contact coming out of your bullpen. You like to think that that's a really big boost, and I know everybody's excited about that.
So I'm a little biased, but I love fastball changeup guys out of the bullpen, because when you have a fastball changeup mix, you're usually better at getting both hitters out. A lot of times, if your main secondary is a breaking ball out of the bullpen, I feel like that can be a little bit more difficult to get the opposite hand out. There are obviously exceptions. However, with Luke Weaver, yes, you're getting a guy who does not give up hits to righties almost at all, especially this season. But lefties don't hit very well against them either. So to be able to do both of those things, I think is really important for the back of this bullpen. Also, I just want to hit a few things here that I find important. One, Sammy Stafura is a good player, and he has had an incredible season this year, but really, it's been an incredible month. He had 14 home runs in a month, okay? So that brought his season total up to 19. And so you're kind of getting a team in the Mets that are buying high. And if you have a team buying high, you're usually coming out as the victor in that trade. We haven't seen what Sammy Stafura can do above high A. That's the highest level he's been at. And let's be honest, his best offensive season by far is this year. And where is he hitting? He's hitting in Greensboro. Everybody hits well in Greensboro. He's never hit
Right.
anything like 19 home runs in a season in his career. And yes, it's the season's not over. And yes, I'm sure there's been improvements. But this is the kind of thing that you can look at as at just looking from the outside and say, it really feels like you're getting the more valuable side of the trade here. But especially, KY, when you talk about the fact that Luke Weaver is going to be in this Pirates bullpen, not just for this year, but also for next year. He signed a 2-year, $22 million contract before the season with the Mets. And the Mets are going to pick up $6 million of that $11 million that he's due next year. So he ends up being an incredible bargain for really a player that you're just not sure what he's going to end up being.
Yes, and I agree with you on all the cores. I think two things that you really focus in on is what was the need. I mean, you go into the trade deadline as a Pittsburgh Pirates and you address what the need was. You didn't mess around with it. You got somebody who's proven, another guy and these are the type of acquisitions you want. If you really want to be taken serious in this part, of this season, you're acquiring guys that can make a difference tonight, tomorrow night, and the rest of this month, and the
Right.
rest of the season. And as you mentioned, starting absolutely for next year as well. And so you're strengthening your team, you're strengthening your bullpen by making that decision. And that's why you love to have those type of acquisitions and trades come through at this time of year. So often you're on that side, well, maybe you're acquiring players that you hope. I mean, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a guy that's actually been doing it. And like you said, he's a veteran. And I think that's where you got to tip your cap to the aggressiveness and the ability to make this type of deal happen. And like you said, you're trading a proven big leaguer for a minor leaguer. Anytime you have that happen, that's a win. I mean, you got to count that as a win in when it comes to making the trades and thus forth.
It just really feels like the value here. It feels similar to trading Mike Burrows away in the offseason and getting back Brandon Lau and Mason Montgomery and Jake Mangum all in that trade. Obviously, you're only getting one player here and as a reliever. However, this is a very high leverage reliever who has pitched in very big games for the Mets and the Yankees over the last 3 years, and he has been great. And he's having his best season. So you're kind of buying high, selling high on both sides. I think that's why probably this deal gets done. I will say the Pirates going into this trade deadline, we kind of knew what they needed. But unfortunately, you have those 3 losses against Cincinnati, and it kind of feels like maybe things would start to change. The way that the Pirates would approach this deadline. I think we both agree, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that this clearly shows that the Pirates had a plan going into this, which was we're not just going to go for the rentals. We're going to go for guys that we're going to be able to control going into next year, because the only player that you're really losing right now for next year is Brandon Lau. And if you can find a way to
Right.
try to sign him or at least replace him in some way, you're going to be looking really good going into next season. And I think that's what Weaver really adds here is the fact that he's going to be here for next year shows that the Pirates believe this window is open, and it's not just about this year, but it is also about next year. While, hey, if it works out this year, you're going to be really happy to see it happen.
No, I agree with you. I mean, because in all honesty, Stevie, you know as well as I do, it is really, really hard to make it in the playoffs in that wild card spot. I mean, you look at the National League and you look at how many teams are sitting around 60 wins. I mean, there's a ton load of teams around there that you have to go over the next 2 months. I mean, it is a challenge. And so, to your point, I think the big part is that how can you prepare this team to actually try to get healthy enough and go on a run in August to win a few series and maybe put themselves in a position in September to make something happen. But more importantly, if you aren't able to do that because the rest of the league has some say so as well, we talk about that all the time. Uh, but you put yourself in position for next year possibly to do some things. And now next year, all of a sudden, the NL Central may be back on your list now. You can focus on that a little more, and the Brewers don't get off to the tremendous start like they did, or the Cubs
Yeah.
don't do it as well. So at least you give yourself a position to start from where you go, okay, I can go into the offseason now knowing the bullpen is solid. I can take some more, aggressive actions towards whatever the situation may be to acquire bats in any area you need. So I agree 100% with the fact that where the Pirates have positioned themselves thus far, if they don't do anything else for the rest of the trade deadline, I would say this has been a success because for the first time in a while, you went into a trade deadline and you were able to acquire exactly what you needed. I mean, and before you'd have to try to do that in the off season, and so I think you got to give some credit where credit is due. This will be a win.
So, and in my opinion, and I just want to say that the Pirates have not announced any of this yet. We don't know how they're going to choose to deploy him. So I'm going to give my opinion because we don't have an answer yet. I think it's interesting in that when you sign a guy like Luke Weaver, I don't want people to immediately assume, okay, this guy is our closer because he hasn't been a closer. He only has 13 saves over the last 3 years. He wasn't really a closer this year. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out at the end of the bullpen because Mason Montgomery has turned himself into a very special talent back there. And we've seen what he's done, especially to lefties. And while Luke Weaver's been very good against lefties, you still have this incredible weapon that you want to see used at the end of ball games. I like to think of it this way. I think that the Pirates are probably going to take this as a instead of thinking about what the ninth inning is going to look like, I think the Pirates are going to be pitching for the eighth. Which are you going to go with, a lefty or a righty in the
Yeah,
eighth inning
matchup
when you're
wise.
up by one or two? And then you kind of figure out the ninth inning from there. I think that's more how this is going to be used. Do you think that I'm onto something there?
I do. I think that, I mean, like you said, it's one thing you know as well as I do. It's a big difference between that eighth inning to that ninth inning. That's a really big difference. It's a big jump. You have to mentally be prepared to close out games. I think that's so important. And so, and I do feel like the reason why is we'll get into this later on, uh, but getting Camilo Duvall, that's a guy that's proven, what he could do is at this level as well. So I'm pretty sure they have a couple pitches they want to work on in particularly to try to get some more action, maybe some more depth out of, and maybe build him up as you look for again next year too. So maybe that's kind of the case. You're looking at certain guys like Weaver. You're not looking to mess with anything with him. I mean, he's been
Yeah.
doing his job. It's pretty consistent. But with Doval, you think about Gregory Soto, you think about these guys in Mason Montgomery. There's some guys in there that have been really electric for a period of time. Montgomery is the one that stands out. I mean, yeah, having a left-handed closer that can run it up there in triple digits and can get some swing and miss, that's pretty attractive. It is. But like you said, it's you have two arms. You have a left-handed arm that does that. And now you have a right-handed arm, and so it gives you some options. And I think right now, more than anything, what I focus on is making sure you're able to add runs at the end of the game. So the significance of that is not as big as you want it to be. I think that's probably the key. Have you strengthened the bullpen? Yes. Can you continue to get outs at the bullpen with this type of talent? Yes. But like I said, I'm looking at offensively. I mean, what are we going to do? How long until again O'Neal Cruz is back in that lineup? How long until you see Spencer Horwitz returning to some form? It's going to take a little bit. We just don't know how long that is. And then it's Merlin Valdez as well. He's going to go through the ups and downs this game gives you as a young player because they're starting to adjust to him. So offensively, I start getting a little more antsy than I am about this bullpen now after these two trades.
All right, well, we come back here on Bucs Bounty. You got about 15 minutes or so left to the trade deadline. We'll get you guys right up to the trade deadline when we come back here in just a few minutes. Oh, the deadline is rapidly approaching. It's coming up, KY. We just got about 14 minutes now to the deadline. I will say that trades that are made just before the deadline happens can be announced after that deadline, just in case anybody's curious. There probably will still be some moves after the the 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time cutoff, but we will let you know, obviously, if anything happens. KY, we talked about Luke Weaver, and this next conversation is going to include probably some more conversation about Luke Weaver. But the Pirates just a few days ago signed Camilo Doval. They trade Camilo Doval away from the Yankees, so they're grabbing a few New York relievers, one from the Yankees, one from the Mets. Camilo Doval, we saw him a lot with the Giants. He had a few seasons where he was absolutely dominant. This year, he has not been that same guy. However, this team desperately needed a right-handed sinker pitcher out of his bullpen. That's something I've been talking about for a long time. And with Camilo Doval coming over here, the big story has been his numbers at home in Yankee Stadium were atrocious, and his numbers on the road were great. What do you think the Pirates fans? I know he threw one inning and he gave up a home run, but let's be honest, that was what we call a garbage inning at the end of a blowout game where you just wanted to get him on the mound. It's not the same feel, the same intensity we'll see from Doval next time we see him, I'm sure. What are Pirates fans? What should we be looking in Camilo Doval coming over?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a big arm talent. That's what he delivers. I mean, he has a good arm. Obviously, the fastball can reach up to triple digits, but more importantly, like you said, the two-seamer is the one that really plays extremely well. I think one of the things you look at when you have a guy like this is, what was the attraction to getting him? What did the Pirates and their pitching what did they see that they go, well, we can make this happen, we can improve something there? The one big thing for him is the ability to stay out of the middle of the plate. I think he's also a guy makeup wise, when you think about characteristical traits and things, that very quiet, reserved type of individual. And so when you think about a reserved type of individual like that, playing in New York City is probably not where it's going to be your first choice to go.
Yeah.
So I think and then it just adds to it when you're talking about the splits, right? Being at home versus on the road. I mean, everybody obviously goes to the short porch in right field, but it's more than that. It's the noise around it. And then this guy now is coming over to a place where you have, Gregory Soto. Again, you have some guys that he is super familiar with. Dotel. You think about Ramirez. All these guys have actually had some familiarity with it. So now you have a group and a unit out there in that bullpen that they kind of gravitate and pull from one each other all the time, very much like you had the starting pitching staff. These guys really are a tight-knit group out there, and you just added one more flamethrower to that it actually helps him kind of relax and goes out and plays baseball a little differently and a little bit more resembling what he has been on the road. And so the Pirate fans are getting a really good arm-talented young man that has done it before. I think more importantly, and that's like you mentioned, in San Francisco, he was an all-star. He's been able to do some things really, really well. He can get swing and miss, and he can get the ball on the ground. And so, again, with the acquisitions of the bullpen, if the Pirates don't do anything else moving forward, you'd have to say they addressed the issues that they had and didn't really give up a ton in the process. I think, again, you got two major leaguers, and it didn't put a real dent into your system in any stretch of imagination. And so I really am pleased to see where this team is versus when we started this road trip to where we are right now. You have to say this is a pretty A-plus type job.
Okay, so I have this written down in my notes, okay, because I wanted to make sure that I had the bullpen right. Okay, so we're going to go from back to front, all right? Weaver, Montgomery, Soto, and Doval. You kind of pair those two guys off, I think. Weaver and Montgomery in the 8th, 9th. Soto, Doval, maybe 7th, 8th kind of situation. Then you got Majinski, we don't know. He said, recently after that last game that he wants to throw more. So, who knows what we're getting with him, but he's been really good. And then you have Dotel, Marinaccio, and Johan Ramirez. And that does not include Evan Sisk, who will be coming back from injury, which I assume will send either Dotel or Marinaccio down. I mean, that all of a sudden, that bullpen is looking really good. It is not just looking manageable. It's looking like a bullpen that could really shut down games, which is exactly what the Pirates needed. And so, like you said, there was a need. and the Pirates addressed it, and they addressed it in a very good way. It's like I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I'm curious, do you see that kind of Weaver, Montgomery, Soto, Doval? Do you see those four guys maybe kind of feeding off of each other and maybe finding success together at the back end of this bullpen?
Yes, I really do. I think these, like you said, these guys, you have a couple guys that have had some history that have done it at the high level. You had a couple guys that have reached their kind of downfalls a little bit throughout the year, dealt with some adversities and trying to bounce back, but they still have really good stuff. And I think that's probably the biggest part. I think all this that you said, Steve, what gets you excited is these guys are going to be around for the next couple of years. And again, once you add the offense back, once you get these guys healthy again, you have to really, really get excited about where this team can be before this year ends.
I completely agree. It's crazy. I mean, I know we're a game under 500 right now as you go into the deadline. About 8 minutes left. But when we come back, we'll get you up to that deadline. But we'll talk about what huge differences the Pirates have shown this season when we come back, and hopefully maybe see another trade. We'll let you know when we come back here on Bucs Bounty. Well, what a difference a year makes. You saw last year the Pirates offense right down at the bottom of the league, and I mean, it is not hyperbole
Everything.
to say in literally every stat that matters offensively. And it's so crazy to see what the Pirates have done this year and turning that around. Remember, we talked about, what was going to happen with the offense, and we were so far away, and all of a sudden things clicked. And you see this happen with teams. We saw it happen with the Astros. We saw it happen with the Nationals. You've seen it happen around the league. The Pirates are one of those big stories this year. Last year at the deadline, KY, the Pirates were 47-62. This year, you're 56-57. And that's honestly a disappointing record to read going into the trade deadline, because we all thought, hey, Pirates go take 3 out of 4 against Cincinnati. They're a few games over 500. You're right there in the wild card race. Well, now you're a few games back, but they put themselves in a good spot. And I'm just curious, KY, I got to ask you, as somebody who watches this just as much as I do, I want to know what you think. Obviously, we know the big moves that have made this Pirates offense better, but that's not it. It's a culture change. And I want to know, is that one of those things that they was grabbed in spring training and it ended up being true, and so you actually started believing it even though you didn't believe it before? Or did this team actually believe in themselves that they could be this team going into the season?
Well, I think you hit on it. It's the foundation what you build off of, and I think manager all starts with the manager. Obviously, Donnie Kelly being from Pittsburgh, pouring in the heart and soul of what it's like to play for the city, what is it like to be a part of the city, and then you have to go immediately into the players, the type of players that you acquired, signing Ryan O'Hearn to a 2-year deal, and what he's meant to this organization. Just this early part, the return has been huge. Is his ability to be able to impact players back to back. You see a good feel for these guys. Brandon Lau, experienced guy, has done it before. But more importantly, you're adding offensive guys that could make a difference and play every day. I think that's the key. For so long, Pirate fans over the last 5 or 6 years had grown accustomed to having platoon players out there, and then there was Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz. I mean, well, you need way more of that to get the type of guys that you got, the buy-in. You have momentum. You have guys that are built and believe in the system, that believe in the foundations that they have now. So when they go through adversity, which they have with the injuries all year long, to key players in that starting lineup, somebody else has been able to step up. And I think that just goes back to the coaching staff, the managerial part of Donnie Kelly, and investing in the man first, and then benefited from the player second.
I want to throw a weird thing at you. You ready for this? I think that the acquisition of Jake Mangum was just as important as the acquisition of Brandon Lau. And it's not that they're creating the same damage on offense. Yes, Jake Mangum has a high batting average, but it's not the same OPS. It's not the same damage. He's not hitting the home runs. But you lost O'Neal Cruz for more than a month this season. And last year, there would have been no way to fill O'Neal Cruz being out for a while. There just wasn't that you would have gotten good production out of. So the fact that Jake Mangum was able to step in this year, that was a trade that was made before the season started. And probably when you looked at that trade, him and Montgomery kind of second and third in that trade. You put them whichever way you want. Maybe they'll impact the team a little bit. Jake Mangum was seen as a fourth outfielder that would play every now and then. And that's how he started out the season. But when O'Neal Cruz got hurt, he stepped up. And he's been one of the reasons that this offense has continued working at a high level, even without O'Neal Cruz, without Connor Griffin. Jared Triolo's performance has stepped up recently. So I do think there's a big difference in this. We're starting to see the guys who hadn't really been as successful as the Pirates would have liked. You're seeing some of that start to tick up a little bit. And if that can continue to happen, the Pirates can go on the long run that they have not been able to make the entire season. I will say this, though. This team that we're about to play in the Milwaukee Brewers, they have not won more than 5 games in a row this year. Not once have they won more than 5 games in a row. The difference is they have a lot of 3-game winning streaks and 4-game winning streaks that they're able to kind of take over those intermittent losses that they get.
Yeah.
But I don't think that putting Jake Mangum, if you don't have Jake Mangum, I don't think this team is here this year, to be honest with you. What do you think?
No.
Do you think that that's, correct?
Yes, I think it is correct, but I'll go back to what we talked about before. When we went into the offseason last year, what was the need? It was for left-handed bats that were run producers. So what we ended up doing, we ended up getting Brandon Lau, we ended up getting Ryan O'Hearn, and obviously Jake Mangum is a switch hitter, so he provides that. But we had a couple episodes ago, I talked about the significance of Jake Mangum. And early in the year, I said, if Jake Mangum ends up getting 450 at-bats, I mean, we're looking at a 500 ball club. And the reason why I said that is because we didn't go into offseason looking to add that type of player. We needed power. And so he's done exactly everything he's needed to do. And it was a great acquisition to have him and Montgomery because they were major league guys. They are guys that impacted the major league club. But all that being said, Jake Mangum has filled in very nicely. But what is the separator? At the end of the day, you have to have guys like O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Ryan O'Hearn, being able to do what they've done along with Brandon Lau in the infield to be able to put up that long ball, that 2 or 3 run homer when you need it, because it does change things. Jake Mangum is a table setter. He's an energizer guy. He's always going to be able to get out there, but you got to have guys that can drive him in. And that's the most important thing about that. And I love everything he brings to the table. He's the perfect player for Pittsburgh, for the city itself, because he gets after it. He doesn't take a pitch off. And that's why, you just got to feel good about the acquisition.
I love the acquisition. And it's so funny because I was telling people this whole season, this guy's done this same thing his entire career. He's always hit for high average. That's never been a question. It's just the type of player that he was, a high average, but not necessarily a high on base because he doesn't really walk very much. That kind of player was not really valued. And now you see teams like the Rays and the Brewers who are full of Jake Mangums are in first place in their respective leagues. And that player has become
Yeah.
much more valuable. So we're getting to 6 o'clock. We are now past the trade deadline. Technically, a few more trades coming here. A player that we just saw, Nathaniel Lowe, is going to the Guardians. As the Guardians try to, get their offense going a little bit more. That's been their problem this year. Pitching has been really good. The offense has not.
They got Joe
But
Adell
there have
too, right?
been. Yes, they
They
did.
they, they
They're
acquired
looking
Joe
for
Adell
bats
today
to
too.
add.
Yeah. They are.
Right. And so we're getting close here. There's going to be a few more trades rolling in, I'm sure, over the next few minutes. But let's quickly talk about KY, the bullpen again, figuring out what the bullpen needed to change. Now you got a few guys in long relief that I really like that maybe won't have to pitch in the more difficult situations. And for me, that's Johan Ramirez and Wilbur Dotel. I think guys who have very good stuff and right now are perfectly suited to pitch earlier in games, multiple innings. Either could be leverage innings because I think they have good arms, but I think more that fifth to sixth inning will be a really good spot for them. I think adding these guys at the end of that bullpen kind of puts these guys in a more comfortable spot. And I believe it gives just a little bit more clarity to what the bullpen actually looks like in terms of roles. And as you know, that really helps guys with that comfortability in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a couple things, and I'll share this. When you think about Braxton Ashcraft, for example, I mean, Braxton Ashcraft at this point has thrown more pitches than he's ever thrown in his professional career in a single season. You think about Jared Jones after coming off his procedure. We mentioned Mitch Keller and the wear and tear of the second half of the season, what it's been for him. Paul Skeens as well. So you're going to need those guys to be able to eat up those innings because on this back end, these starters, I mean, as much as you like them to go six, maybe 7 innings, it's not. I don't think it's a reality. I mean, they're on the decline on their pitch counts now more than anything. So you definitely need that bullpen, those middle guys like you just mentioned, to really step up. And hopefully that'll be the case. They'll come up and they have good stuff, and they'll be able to eat up those couple innings and keep those numbers down for everybody else.
Well, a flurry of moves here at the end of the deadline, including it looks like a few Pirates moves. We will get back to you in just a minute and get back to those trades when we get back here on Bucs Bounty. Milwaukee. Uh, we have a few extra moves that reportedly the Pirates have made. And once more, we got more bullpen help for the Buccos. This is one of those things that when this is not officially reported yet, we are still seeing how everything plays out. But according to many, many things, it looks like the Pirates are getting Lake Bacher from the Miami Marlins and also Kirby Yates. From the Angels. Well, now, I mean, if you're talking about a full bullpen overhaul here at the end of the bullpen, this is pretty huge, KY.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, it's the two surprises, like you said, and it's literally in the last seconds. They beat the shot clock, you know. So I mean, and like you said, anytime you're able to do something like this, when you want to strengthen your bullpen, obviously it's been a big issue for this ball club throughout the course of the year, and now it changes everything. Now you have a revamped bullpen, if you will, due to trade acquisitions exclusively, and so there's going to be some movement around there. Let's see who ends up sticking around and who doesn't. But how do you match up? Are a lot of these guys coming in to impact immediately? Is it something that was attracted about them that you feel like you can get something more out of them? Very much as we talked about before, you have guys that leave organizations for a reason. They get traded for a reason. Because other people want them for that reason. They say, well, we think we can get more shape on this, or we think he'll be better served doing this. And so we need to find out a little bit more about this last trade to see what was all behind that, and if it's something that's going to look to impact this ball club right now over the next 2 months.
Yeah, both of these pitchers in the mid to high threes ERA wise this season. Lake Bacher from the Marlins. We saw him earlier this season. I've seen him throw a few times. He's got some good stuff. His slider has a 130 batting average against this season, so obviously that's going to play. Kirby Yates, a longtime veteran. He's a splitter guy. So splitters from the right-hander. He's
Splitter
also
sweeper.
throwing a four-seam
Those is
fastball.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I do find it interesting that you add multiple Pirates or multiple bullpen pitchers to this Pirates bullpen at the end, because think about it, like you said, KY. Now there's significant overhaul, and all of a sudden this team is built with a lot more end bullpen depth in mind. Think about that. You go, Kirby Yates is mostly a one inning guy. Lake Bacher is mostly a one inning guy, and then you have Doval and Weaver, who are also both one inning guys. But now you're kind of full of high leverage kind of arms, guys that have experienced doing high leverage. And I do think that changes things a little bit, because part of that is going to be you're going to have to rely on the starting pitching a little bit more as well. So we're going to have to see that turn around a little bit, because that's been struggling recently.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going back to what we just discussed. I think that's the issue that I would look at more than anything, is that starting pitching is going to be an issue just due to the volume. Like I said, these guys, it's hard to get to that place of 80, 90 pitches now consistently out of some of these guys. I mean, they're stepping into uncharted waters, if you will. I mean, it's later in the season. Bubba Chandler also, as you throw him in the mix, I mean, he's starting to get up there in his pitch count over the course for a season. So what does that look like overall? How do you play? And I think this has a lot to do, as you mentioned, what you have proven arms. Even if they're accustomed to going one inning, they can start eating up those innings, because at the end of the day, you just want them to get those 3 outs. And so if you can build around exactly what you need for this season, you set yourself up, like you said, for next season as well, to be able to go out in the offseason and acquire differently, acquire the bats that are needed, or maybe a starting pitcher, maybe a left-hander starter if need be. You can have more sniper focus going into the offseason when you have some of these guys that are going to be around for a couple of years.
Yeah, I really like this Lake Bacher move a lot. Obviously, I'm going to repeat myself just so everybody knows these are not totally official yet, have not been announced by the Pirates, so obviously things could change. But with where we're standing right now, I've now brought back my notepad as I continue to write things in it. Now, you ready for this? Weaver, Montgomery, Soto, Doval, and then you go Bacher and Yates, and then you go Majinski and Ramirez. I mean, that is a deep bullpen. That is a completely 180 transformed bullpen that you're hoping for the rest of the season is going to be able to hold these leads so you can win right now.
Right. So you think about the starting pitchers. If you just say your starting pitchers for the sake of just argument, we just want you to go 4 or 5 innings. We just want you to go 4 innings, and we can turn this over to some other arms. Or we want you to go 5 innings to qualify for a start. That's not the issue. We just want to win. We want the W. So if it's 2 times around the lineup or what have you, whatever it is, allow these guys to be able to pitch, knowing they got some back end help. Now all of a sudden you have a really good shot of like you said, we do need that 6, 7, 8 game winning streak because it's too late in the season now to be like the Brewers and win 3 here and 3 there. So we need to string along those wins, and maybe this is how we go about doing it.
Well, the Pirates very active on deadline day and very focused, I think would be the word that I used for this deadline performance by Ben Cherington in the Bucs front office. We're going to go to break one more time, but when we come back here on Bucs Bounty, we're going to give you a little bit about what the other teams that the Pirates will be facing in their division did, and also give our recap on how we believe the Buccos deadline went. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Well, a very active deadline for the Buccos, and like I said before we went to break, focused, KY, laser focused on one issue that it seemed like the Pirates believe everything else is good to go and ready, and I don't disagree. But we're going to start actually by going over a little bit of what the rest of the NL Central did. I think this is really important to get to. The Cardinals and the Reds, not really sellers per se, but pretty much staying pat and trading a few guys away. The Cubs, however, went absolutely bonkers at the deadline. They got Kevin Gossman, they got Clay Holmes, they got Tyrone Taylor, they got Ryan Zefferjon, and they got Braxton Garrett. So really assessed their pitching staff. They needed some help with, especially that starting rotation, which has had a lot of injuries this year. So they bumped it up. Holmes just coming back from injury, but Kevin Gossman is an incredible pitcher. We all know that, and Holmes does not make things easy. And then the Brewers, smaller moves, but interestingly enough, one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball, second in ERAs staff. They went and got Dustin May and Jojo Romero from the Cardinals, and then they got Antonio Senzatella from the Rockies. So 2 teams within the division that are above the Pirates right now in the standings, making some big moves, especially the Cubs. seems like the NL Central is doing a lot of buying right now, KY.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and it's setting it up for this year and then possibly next year as well, as you know. But I think the one thing you and I talked about briefly in the break was about what were the Brewers doing exactly. I mean, obviously they're already strong with pitching all the way around, both in the pen and starting pitching too. So why would they continue to do this? And they know who they are. They didn't find. I don't think that they felt they can get a significant amount of bats that will make a difference. Offensively, they're going to roll with what they have and just stick to getting good pitching, gets out, good hitting. And I think that's going to be their recipe that they're going to use throughout the course of the rest of this year and see how that can take them through the playoffs this season. And so with the Cubs, obviously a lot different. Those guys had a different need. Offensively, they've been able to do some things all year long. The pitching, as you mentioned before, the starting pitching, the inconsistencies in which they have there, they wanted to address a number of things. And so you're right with the NL Central. I think this is probably one of the things that you really want to have an idea of, and you look at it, how that affects the Pirates. Obviously, directly playing one-on-one against. We're playing a 4-game series now against the Brewers. Only play the Cubs one other time at the end of the year, I think in September. And so. But what does that do to the rest of the league? These two teams, the Cubs and the Brewers, are the staples in the NL Central right now, and the Cubs are going to try to make a run for it. Even as far back as you may see them, they can close some distance. We just got through seeing what Boston did throughout the month of July. I mean, that's just a dominant month, and you went go 21-4 or whatever it was. I mean, what is possible for the month of August? Some teams can jump right back in the heat of things. The Pirates, after these acquisitions, are making some noise to see if they can get in that wild card as well.
I know that there are a decent amount of teams above the Pirates in these wild card standings, but one thing I really like is that there's not too much separation at the top to the bottom of those 3 wild card spots. So if you can catch one, you're really kind of catching all 3. And there's going to be a team that goes on a run here. You want it to be the Pirates, obviously. The Phillies right now not playing very well. The Diamondbacks are playing very well, so are the Padres. The Marlins, interestingly enough, the team right above the Pirates in the standings, and the Pirates just bought a reliever from them that is a controllable
Right.
reliever for the future. Marlins sold off a few different guys during this trade deadline. But I just love the fact that the Pirates did what they needed to do and did it in a way. Lake Bacher he has just over 1 year of service time in the big leagues. That means you're getting 2 more years of this guy before he even goes into arbitration. So this is a huge pickup for this bullpen. A little bit of a late bloomer was Bacher. You see right there, the slider is real. He's going to get a lot of whiffs on it. He does a great job of being efficient. He doesn't walk too many guys. Exactly what this bullpen needed. And it just adds 2 things. One, it adds a little bit more stability into the future of this bullpen, but also it adds like a ton of hair. And I don't think there's enough hair in the
Man,
Pirates
man, why you
bullpen. You
got
need a
why you gotta get
guy.
personal, brother? Let's keep it on
I
the
don't know. I
trade
think Kirby
deadline, man.
Yates probably evens it
No
out,
shots.
No, no
No,
shots at
that's good.
all. It is funny because you don't normally see teams do this, right? At the deadline, maybe if you're gonna fix a bullpen, you'll get 1 or 2 guys. If you're gonna fix a starting rotation, 1 or 2. If you're gonna fix an offense, same thing. But for the Pirates to just fully lean in and totally change this bullpen up going into the last 2 months of the season, it feels, I think, even more rejuvenating than normal. Would you say, KY?
My executive brain is thinking. So all I'm thinking as you're talking right now is I'm like, okay, I just want to remind everybody that, like you said, all these arms that you have, these guys are going to be around for this year and next year. And so all I keep thinking about is the offense, having a healthy offense, the starters back in play. Man, this looks really, really good. So nice job by the Pirates again at the trade deadline, making some things happen, addressing a screaming need throughout the course of this entire season. Really, really nice job of this acquisition and utilizing the trade deadline specifically to meet your needs.
All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and we got one more segment when we come back here from break on Bucs Bounty. This is exciting, man. I'm feeling good. Let's talk about it some more when we come back in just a little bit. Mitch Keller's going to the 60-day IL, which means he's done for the season, which means that the Pirates are now going to have to figure out a starter to put in for the rest of the season. I think we all have a pretty good idea on who that might be. But you just rejuvenated this bullpen, and so now you're hoping that you're going to be able to have somebody fill that spot because, like we said, rejuvenating this bullpen really, really puts some pressure on the starting rotation to get back to where it needs to be. Now you're not going to have Mitch Keller, and we'll see what move the Pirates decide to make here, KY.
Yeah, and that you have to think that that's played into that last minute, buzzer beating shot clock that we were talking about, right?
Right.
I mean, so obviously there's some good things. Obviously, Mitch has been just amazing at eating up innings. So hats off to him just for everything that he's been able to do. And I hope whatever is going on with him physically that he's going to be okay. But as you continue to move forward, and the next guy has to step up, just like the Pirates have been doing all year. Yeah, it's easy to think that Carmen Mlodzinski would maybe fitted into that role. Obviously, of what he's been able to do, he's continued to strengthen, lengthen out even in his appearances. So you wouldn't think he would be anybody else other than Carmen. But it goes back to what we said before. These guys now have built some arms that have been proven. They've done it before, and it still creates that opportunity for this club to actually throw those type of things that they needed to address into the mix and now get that offense going a little bit more. The Pirates, Stevie, though, at the end of the day, only have 9 home games in the month of August. So that's going to play a big part of also how they go about doing things. They have to find a way to win on the road. The bullpen usually has a lot to do with that. So I think that's really a big key, and so we'll see how it works out.
I do want to hit on the fact, KY, that as this trade deadline occurred, there was one really big trade that everybody knows about is Terry Skubal going to the Dodgers. But as far as teams that are right in front of the Pirates in that wild card race, as we kind of come to a close here, just quickly, Phillies getting Luis Arias, the second baseman, and the Padres getting Robbie Ray, both from the Giants. Those teams, the teams right in front of the Pirates here in this playoff race. Do you think that those make a big difference? Or do you think the Pirates are pretty much in the same position that they were in before?
I think they're in the same position. I really do. I think at the end of the day, I mean, the things that are going to make a difference for this Pirates club, it's all downstairs as I'm looking down on the field right now. It's all in that clubhouse. They have to make a concerted effort as a group to go out and compete over the next 2 months to make themselves relevant. I think they have that type of backing. Obviously, the trade deadline really helped out a ton in strengthening the bullpen. Now they just need to learn how to continue to use all this momentum that they have from the trade deadline and touch home plate as often as possible and conserve those leads.
So the Pirates at the 2026 trade deadline, very, very active, end up completely rehashing the entire bullpen. You get Camilo Doval yesterday. You get Luke Weaver today to start. And then all of a sudden, at the very end, right before the deadline comes in, you find Lake Bacher and Kirby Yates just kind of somewhere around. Maybe the Pirates could grab them up. KY, a huge change here for the Buccos. Really excited to see where this is going to go with this bullpen.
Yeah, really, and nice job today covering all of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff to cover in the last minute. I mean, it was pretty fun to do. I always enjoy you and baseball talk about it. It's a big move for the Bucs. Super proud of this staff and everything they've been able to do. Let's see if they can make a nice little run this month of August.
Absolutely. Pirates looking to stack it here at the back of the bullpen going into the end of the season. Need to go on a run here in August and September to find themselves in the playoff race to hey, host some games here in PNC Park wouldn't be so bad. All right, from Kevin Young, from Stephen Brault, from all of our guys here at SportsNet Pittsburgh, our producer Nick Belsky. We appreciate you for joining us here on Bucs Bounty. This has been a fun one, special trade deadline edition. We'll see you in the pregame show coming up in just a few minutes.